Welcome back to the Body Challenge Podcast, the official podcast of the NXLabs Body Challenge. I'm Nathan Hinks from NXLabs, and today's episode is all about posing and how to look your best in front of the camera. The best way to perform any pose is start at the bottom and work your way up. Let's look at each pose and how to perform each one correctly. Let's start off with the front double bicep pose. Start with your feet about a foot apart with your toes pointed slightly outward. Turn your knees outward without moving your foot position and flex your quads. Raise both hands over your head and bring them down as if you were doing an imaginary lat pull down. Keeping your back muscles tense, slightly arch your back and raise your elbows slightly above your shoulders and flex both biceps while also flexing all the muscles in your back. With your heel back and knee out, rest your weight on your back leg. Then begin flexing all the muscles in your lower body. Raise both hands over your head and keeping your back muscles tense, slightly arch your back and raise your elbows slightly above your shoulders and flex both biceps while also flexing all the muscles in your back. The next pose is the back lat spread. The pose begins with the same foot position as the back double bicep pose. With your heel back and knee out, rest your weight on your back leg. Then begin flexing all the muscles in your lower body. Once you've done this, bring your elbows straight back, put your hands on your waist, and roll your elbows forward and flare your lats so they pop out to finish the pose. Starting square to the camera, put one foot forward and rest your weight on your back leg. Bring your elbows straight back, put your hands on your waist, and roll your elbows forward and flare your lats so they pop out to finish the pose. The next pose is the side chest. Turn to the side, bend your forward leg and raise your heel, pushing your rear leg into your forward leg to make your hamstring pop out. Grip your front wrist with your back hand and pull your elbow back, pushing up on your hand to flex your biceps while also flexing your pecs. The next pose is the side tricep pose. The lower half of this pose is identical to the side chest pose. Once you've established your lower body position, bring both arms behind your back and grip your forward palm with your other hand. Keeping your back straight, push down with your forward hand, locking out your elbow. Once you've done this, exhale and flex your abdominals and chest muscles. Starting square to the camera, put one foot forward and rest your weight on your back leg. Straighten your front leg and lock your knee, and be sure to flex your quads. Interlace your fingers behind your head and crunch down with your abdominals while exhaling. The next pose is the most muscular. There are many variations of the most muscular pose, but one of the most common is the handcuff variation. Start with your feet slightly apart and tighten your leg muscles. Grip your bottom hand at the wrist. Exhale and slightly roll your elbows forward while flexing your entire upper body. Now let's look at the crab variation of the most muscular pose. The crab variation begins with one foot forward and knees slightly bent. Bend slightly at the waist and bring your arms forward, keeping your upper body tense and crossing your wrists. For the hands on hips variation, keep your feet slightly apart. Put your hands on your hips, roll your elbows forward, crunch down on your abs, and exhale while keeping your head forward. Remember, our judges make the final call on who wins, but it's the community who decides who the finalists are. So get out there and campaign for your votes. That's it for this edition of the NXLabs Body Challenge podcast. Be sure to join us next week when we go over different body types and how to train for each one. Until next week, I'm Nathan Hinks.
This episode of the Body Challenge podcast is brought to you by Betazine, the world's most intense beta-alanine formula. Look for Betazine at fine retailers.